Welcome to the future, or at least what BMW thinks the future should look like. This is the new BMW i3, or more specifically the BMW i3 94 amp hour. And as the name suggests, this model year gets a sufficiently upgraded battery from 60 amp hours to 94. And that dramatically improves the range of this electric car. But before we get into the nitty-gritty, let's talk about the visuals, because the looks are really polarizing. You either love it or you hate it. It's a real Marmite sort of car. Personally, I really like it. BMW set out to build a futuristic car, and they decided from day one that when people look at it, it should be, wow, what is that? And that's what the BMW i3 is. So we've got, although in this really nice grey, it blends in a little more than maybe something like the bright white or the brand new tint of blue, which I quite like that as well. This car, with its short overhangs and relatively stout proportions, contrasting glossy finishes on the outside, it looks very different to what else goes by, and it turns a lot of heads. Distinctive light signatures, modern interpretation of kidney grills. It's definitely a BMW, but again, it doesn't look like anything else from the BMW family. This i-range goes out of its way to stamp itself as something new. Even the way you get into the rear of the car is unique, with these suicide doors, or I'm sure there's a more politically correct way of saying backwards opening doors these days. Now, there are several interior options to go for, but this very bright, light and airy one works quite well with the interior space on offer. It amplifies the airiness of the cabin. Now, there's some recycled materials around, further boosting the green credentials of this car, but also there's some premium details too. You'll find little blue halos all over the car and a floating widescreen display which houses BMW's really good iDrive infotainment system. But just because this is an electric car doesn't mean it goes without luxuries. It's a BMW, of course, so you have heated seats, you have climate control, there's cruise control and DAB radio, and a lot of this actually comes as standard. Another nice little touch of the interior are these skylights here, further letting more light into the cabin. In the back, it seats a further two, and definitely two adults. There's enough head and leg room back there. And of course, those rear opening doors allow for easy entry and exit. The boot might not be the largest in its class, but it's perfectly usable. And there's a handy little cubby under the bonnet too. The 94 amp hour battery in this new car sends power to an electric motor in the rear of the car. And the equivalent of that is about 168 brake horsepower there or thereabouts. And when you put your foot down, the nice thing with an electric car is you don't get this build-up of power and torque. It's instant, it's an on-off switch. So you put your foot down and it actually accelerates really quickly. And I think it will certainly get to about 40 miles an hour faster than most cars, and that includes some serious performance machines. It's that instant torque that makes an electric car a unique driving experience. Now, this specific i3 is the range extender model, and that means it has a small two-cylinder 647cc petrol engine which just serves to generate electricity for the battery whenever it starts getting low. It means that you won't be left stranded if you do totally run out of electricity and there's nowhere to charge the car. Not that looking for somewhere to charge the car is an issue in this model year, because the range is actually 247 miles, which is pretty incredible, because if you think about it, most cars of this sort of size with conventional combustion engines, that's about what they'll do on a full tank of fuel. So you're no more inconvenienced for choosing electric this time. 0 to 62 miles per hour takes 8.1 seconds, and you go on to a top speed of 93 miles per hour. So what sort of roads can you use your 243 mile range on? Well, any of them. I sat for 2 hours solid on a motorway at 70 miles an hour in this car, and other than a little bit of wind noise, it was perfectly pleasant. It had that, obviously with the lack of a combustion engine, very refined, no engine noise whatsoever. And like I say, other than a little bit of wind noise blowing about the car, perfectly pleasant. And it didn't feel gutless either. If I needed to make an overtake, I put my foot down and off it went, just like a conventional car. I think that's the thing that I keep coming back to whilst driving it, is it's an electric car without the inconvenience. I think whilst this externally looks like a minor upgrade from BMW, under the skin, the engineers have really done a very good job to make this car a viable proposition for most people. But with BMW's old tagline being the ultimate driving machine, what's it actually like to drive? Well, it's probably one of the most enjoyable little electric cars to drive. It has that classic BMW sharp steering, which is quite nice. I mean, obviously, let's remember that not many people are going to be taking these off on B roads, but if you did, you're in for a bit of a treat. All the weight is down low with the battery, so there's not much in the way of body roll. It rides relatively well, especially considering the size of the alloy wheels, and your only limiting factor really is the grip of the skinny tyres beneath you. The only thing about your driving habits that you have to tailor for the i3 is factoring in the regenerative braking. So you come off the throttle and the car will slow down maybe a bit more rapidly, depending upon what mode you're in, as it harvests energy from the deceleration of the car. And in most situations, you find yourself not having to brake for slight bends or in traffic and things like that, because the car's regen slows you down enough. The genius of this 94 amp hour BMW i3 is that I think probably 80% of people could swap their combustion engine for this electric car and not worry about range anxiety. That's the big thing here. That's the big thing that stops people from getting into electric cars, because there's so many other benefits. Cheaper to run, you don't pay tax on them. You don't have to worry about not being able to drive into city centres in certain countries. The i3 can go where it likes as a result of being electric. And because you don't have to go, oh, where's the nearest plug socket? You can just use it like a normal car. That's the headline. BMW i3 electric car works just like a car. On a fast DC charge, you can get this car up to 80% of its battery capacity in just 40 minutes. Or of course you can plug it in at home and leave it overnight and it's ready by morning. At £30,980 for this range extender model, the i3 is not necessarily the cheapest in its class, but do remember that you're buying a premium product in a BMW, you're paying for the design, the quality of materials, and more importantly in this car, the technology that goes behind it. And in that respect, the BMW i3 is actually the best small electric car money can buy you at the moment.
Thanks very much for watching, and let us know what you think in the comments below. Please subscribe for all of the latest and greatest cars to hit the road. For breaking news and written reviews, visit www.insidelane.co.uk.